Good morning. On today's podcast episode, we have Raymond Fitzpatrick from Profitual in Fredericton, New Brunswick. He is he has built a really cool product to help startup founders get a handle on their finances to better understand how much runway they have and better manage their finances. So we're super excited to be talking to Ray this morning and learn about his journey, the company, and his take on the industry. Good morning, Ray. Let me just add to stage. Hey, Ray.
Hey, how you doing?
Fantastic. So tell me, how did you get into this? Like, what's the origin story? Um, when I was preparing for the podcast episode, it was referring to you as a serial entrepreneur. So how did it all get started?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm a CPA, and when I got out of university, I spent my formative years working for very large organizations in New Brunswick. So I would have spent time working in the finance and FP&A departments for McCain Foods. I then transitioned and started working with Irving Oil. So I got to see firsthand, again, in my formative years, how accountants and finance folks can really work hand in hand with business operators to help them make more informed decisions. So I went from working from those large
Mhm.
organizations in New Brunswick to some of the smallest. So I transitioned to a firm called NBIF. It's a pre-seed venture capital fund, kind of the provincial arm for venture capital in New Brunswick, making really early investments into startup companies. So I spent about 10 years working as the director of investments for NBIF, involved in a few hundred financings. By the time I left, we had a portfolio of 75 startups. And when I started working with NBIF, I realized very quickly that there wasn't a whole lot of financial rigor or intelligence with these early stage companies. And really, when I looked a little bit deeper, it was because all the founders that I backed, none of them ever came from a finance background. They always came from engineering or computer
Mhm.
sciences or life sciences, basically every walk of life other than finance. So being the guy that was constantly asking them for things like budgets and forecasts and tell me about your burn
Yep.
rate and runway and your LTV to CAC, I tried to find help for these entrepreneurs. So I started my search for help with the big accounting firms, KPMG, Deloitte, EY, and they weren't a real great fit. So those firms are expensive and sometimes out of reach for really early stage companies. More and more, though, it was really because, just because you're an accountant doesn't mean you're set up to advise a startup. So when I transitioned from Irving Oil to startups, I still remember talking to my boss and being like, what do you mean we're going to invest in a company and if nothing happens in 24 months, you're going to be dead? Like, what is runway? Like, this seemed ludicrous to me. I came from
Mhm.
like French fries and gas stations where there's no burn rates or runways. So didn't find a whole lot of help there. So really what we envisioned was, could we make something that's so simple to use
Yeah.
that even a non-finance founder could build their first budget, build their first forecast, understand the main drivers of their business so they make better informed decisions? Can we make it easier for them to do board reporting and investor reporting?
Mhm.
That's really the whole idea behind Profitual is, we kind of want to be the Canva for finance. All the tools that we saw out there were built for like folks like me,
Yeah.
CPAs, folks like you that understand
Already
these,
know.
know where to go, know what we're looking for, know how to do it. As an accountant, I can use Canva. I have no graphic designer, but I can work my way around making a pitch deck or a presentation. And that's really what we're striving to be, is something that's just so easy to use that it makes finance more accessible.
And Ray, my understanding of Profitual is that it's not intended to replace or substitute your financial accounting package, like let's say that you're in QuickBooks. To the contrary, you guys integrate with QuickBooks and you run a nightly batch job that pushes information in and out.
Exactly. Yeah, we partner with different accounting providers, QuickBooks, Zero. we work hand in hand with bookkeeping firms. If we don't have good accounting, good bookkeeping, we can't provide a good analysis.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in addition to, not in replacement of.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit more about you. Who is Ray Fitzpatrick? What made you think?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little tried, but serial entrepreneur. I have 3 different companies.
Okay.
Only one in tech, so full time
What
with.
were the other two?
Yeah, so I do have a bookkeeping firm
Okay.
called Quantified Accounting. So that was again kind of born out of we were
Neat.
finding it really hard to get good bookkeeping, so we
Yeah.
ended up starting that firm. And then on a little bit more of the fun side, outside of finance and tech, I own a distillery with a friend. So we
All right.
have a little distillery based in Fredericton, New Brunswick called Devil's Keep. We do vodka, gin, and Canadian whiskey. Fun little side hobby. Does about $250K a year in sales, and all the free whiskey you can drink. So that was a little bit different. You make something with your hands. So that's a fun one. So all that to say, I spent a lot of time with businesses, thinking about businesses. How do you start them? How do you grow them? How do you make sure you're making the right decisions?
So how do you stay focused? You have 3 businesses. Like, are you actively involved in 3? Do you, like, I know that in Profitual we have a co-founder.
Yeah.
You are the co-founder and CEO. And then what's the unlock in all 3 businesses being successful?
I think it's like good. It is good business partners. So, I have 2 business partners in the accounting firm. I have 1 business partner with the distillery. And in each one of those cases, there's a head. So Profitual, that's my main job. When I wake up in the morning, I'm worried and thinking about Profitual.
Mhm.
At Devil's Keep, it's one of our business owners. That's what his responsibility is. At Quantified Accounting, we have one of the 3 partners. That's his full time.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to have someone who is making the decisions
Mhm.
in control. And then as from like a business partner perspective, if you're not in control, it's how do you support to the best of your ability. So actually after this call, I'm going to go pick up some sugar from Costco for the distillery. So just little things like that. You just kind of, you do a podcast, you pick up some sugar. I got to go do a webinar at 2:00 on how to build a financial forecast. And I guess that's just kind of the world that I've been living for a while, and I'm quite comfortable in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's super interesting. How did you go about identifying your partners? Were they buddies that you've known, passion? How do you know that they're the right fit?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably that's one of the hardest things I think in business. And I think of a lot of the advice that goes into startup founders to like just find a co-founder. I think that's really dangerous. I think you need to find the right co-founders. And I mean, I don't know if I'm the best at it, but at the end of the day, every time that I've done it, it's been with individuals I worked with in the past. So I got to see their work habits, how we interact with each other. The distillery was more of a passion type project. Interesting enough, we wanted to start a brewery, but there's a ton of breweries in Fredericton. I think it's the most per capita in anywhere in Canada. So we shifted into hard spirits. I've never drank whiskey before. I never distilled before. We ended up buying commercial equipment. So that one was more of like a little fun thing that got going. And luckily it's been around for about 9 years now.
Nice.
Yeah, picking the business partners, that's tough. Like I wouldn't rush into it. And I know I've worked with each one of mine for multiple years before we decided to get into business together.
And when a conflict arises, how do you guys go about solving? How do you show that there's continued chemistry, that like you guys continue to stay aligned as co-founders?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it doesn't work. So, with Profitual, I started with a co-founder, and him and I didn't see, eye to eye on issues, and he's no longer with the company.
Okay.
So, like that one didn't work out so well.
Mhm.
But you end up finding a way and different mechanisms, vesting schedules, negotiation back and forth to come to a conclusion that works out. I'd say the distillery, it's funny, me and my buddy, we have the most friction.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's He thinks we should go higher volume and lower price, and I think we should be lower volume and higher price. And we've been having that argument for 9 years now.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's mutual respect and understanding, and really just working things out. I find using the numbers helps a lot. So if we're having a conversation around price, work the numbers out. How do we make more money? What makes more logical sense? And if you're able to bring things back to the numbers, then it becomes less emotional.
So it sounds like you bring the science part and he brings the art part, and somewhere you guys meet somewhere in the middle.
He gets excited about, oh Jesus, whiskey's got these vanilla flavors and this and that. I'm like, I can't taste that. I have no idea. But I'm like, hey, like, are our merchants better on the bottled products or the canned products? And that's kind of where I am.
Yeah. Makes sense. What's what? How many SKUs do you guys have on the distillery side?
Yeah, so we have 3 canned products: a lemonade, a peach, and a gin and tonic.
Okay.
So we have those, like the ready to drinks.
Yep.
Then we have vodka, gin, and whiskey. We also have a barrel aged gin that sometimes is in season and we put out. But yeah, we're about 7 like full time SKUs.
Nice. And so, is this the fun part of the business, like the distillery?
It's easier. It's funny. It's every business has its like easier and harder parts. So, like, I find from a business perspective, if you look at something like a distillery, doesn't matter what you make, someone's going to buy it.
Yep.
Like, if I make a lemonade and it's way too sweet for Ray, it may be fantastic for Maxim, or vice versa. So, like, as far as recipe development goes, it's like, what does it taste like? It's going to work for somebody. Then it becomes a little bit about marketing, what's on the can, things like that. But at the end of the day, you make it, which is a pretty simple process. If you can bake, you can distill. And then what we do is we drop it off to NB Liquor. That's our, province-wide organization. And they distribute it. They put it on the shelves. It sells. There's a lot of days I spend maybe an hour a week at the distillery.
Yep.
So it's much easier from that side. Now, if you look at it from a financial forecasting side, that business is a lot harder to forecast than something like Profitual. Profitual, we know we have salaries makes up 80% of our costs. We have a little bit of other stuff.
Yep.
We know what our revenue targets are. We're not bound by any sort of physical constraints, like, what are our production capacities. But then you look at the distillery and, you have to buy like a shipping container of bottles. So you have this big cash outflow, and then you're starting to bring it back. You have equipment that's amortizing. You have FX rates and delivery times. And it's just, from a planning perspective, for a very simple business, really hard to forecast. So they all kind of had their pros and cons, along the way.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting. I mean, probably in some ways, it's probably easier that you guys are not in beer, that you're in spirits, because shelf life is very different from a beer to a distilled product.
Exactly. We can't make too much and have too much saved up other than, the cost of making it. So yeah, not having any sort of spoilage rate is really nice.
I mean, I have a company that's in a similar space. We have a wine importing agency. We have a wine media company. And so the one thing that New Brunswick does, the NBLC does really nice, is that they have this special corner that's focused on New Brunswick products, which is great to promote. I still think that the markup rates in New Brunswick are ridiculous. Compared to any other province. I think it's at around 80% sitting, compared to like 36 to 40 in Alberta. I mean, we're not going to talk about BC with their 106% markup for anything that's non-BC product, but yes. Okay. So, and on the fun side, married, kids, kind of like what is
no, married. Actually, my wife and I, we adopted 2 kids. We've had them since they're 3 and 4, and they're 9 and 10 now. So yeah, I have an interesting COVID story of week before COVID shut everything down. We ended up bringing 2 little fellas into our house, which, when you work with social development, they're like, might be a week, it might be 6 months. And then all of a sudden the world shut down, and it was like, isolate. It's like, isolate. We just moved 2 strangers in. So we ended up hunkering down with them, and no, we adopted them fully outright a few years ago. But yeah,
Nice.
no, they've been with us ever since COVID.
Amazing.
So yeah, we had a unique COVID situation.
Yeah, yeah. And are they siblings?
Yes, they are. Yeah,
Oh, amazing, amazing.
yeah,
What a story.
yeah.
Um,
It COVID was interesting for a lot of reasons. For us, it was definitely life changing.
what's I mean, a lot of people have regrets around COVID, but like, what's the funnest part about COVID for you? Like, what, like, if you're thinking about a happy memory from COVID, what is it?
I think it was interesting just how resilient everything was. I mean, like for us, we got really nervous. If you look at the distillery, we're like, oh gosh, what happens in a global pandemic? But it was like a second Christmas. Like Christmas time's when we sell the most, and then I just skyrocketed, and it was like, oh, that's a happy coincidence.
Yeah,
But yeah, I found it resilient. I was still at NBIF, the
yeah,
pre-seed venture capital fund at the time, and we got together like almost like war room. Like, how do we make sure our companies aren't too vulnerable? And we had some of the best exits in the history of NBIF. Around that time. So
amazing.
even in like bad times, there's tons of opportunity, and I found that really remarkable. I got used to skip the dishes. I never really did that before. So ordering food was, to your door was something that was new, but got into and really liked it. And obviously the kids. So like for us, like that was almost the exact week that they moved in with us. So we didn't have any kids before.
Yeah.
I never babysat anybody before, so that was kind of trial by fire. Having a 3 and a 4-year-old right away.
Well, you figure it out. I
That's it.
when I when we decided we're gonna become parents, I went and took positive parenting classes. We went to like different classes, what to expect, what to expect. We read all these books, and we had all these principles that we had decided we're going to apply. It's just pure survival. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like just figure it out. Thank
So,
God my in-laws for helping out because I don't know how we would have done it without them.
oh, we're the exact same. My parents like live 10 minutes up the street from us. Her parents live like 5 minutes away. If it wasn't for a family network, and frankly, that goes into business too. Like I was just in Toronto for 3 days, and like my wife and like our parents going to different hockey games and dance recitals and stuff like that. Like without our parents, I don't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have 3 businesses. It'd
Yeah,
be a lot harder.
that's support. As the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. So it's the same thing
Yeah.
with the company. You need to have your board. You need to have your kitchen cabinet of advisors that they're helping out and with the business. So shifting gears into Profitual, you said you wanted to simplify things. You wanted to make it easy for founders to succeed, not to fail. At what point the conviction became so strong that you had to start working on this idea and made a decision to leave NBAF to just focus full time on Profitual?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I guess, being confronted with it every day, and like seeing the anxiety that it gave founders when like our quarterly investor reporting came due.
Hmm.
And it's like they wanted to, provide us with the best information possible. They didn't know how. It was
Hmm.
stressful. They weren't spending time on sales. They're spending time on reporting. We didn't want that.
Yeah.
And then, we'd have companies that would report to be like, hey, we have like 10 months of runway. And then a
Yeah.
couple of weeks later, you get a phone call. We only have 6 weeks of runway and we're going to go bankrupt. And then
Okay.
you scramble. So it's just there's constant friction points like that we're experiencing that was like, all right, we need to do something about this.
Hmm.
I was actually quite nervous to make the jump.
What?
So we did it a little over 3 years now, 3 years ago now. At NBIF, we had our kids. My wife was staying home with the kids, and it was like this was something I wanted to do,
Hmm.
but I was nervous about it.
Hmm.
So I actually went to a mentor of mine that I worked with at Irving Oil, and he was working for a different job. I went to lunch with him, and I was telling him about it, and I was just like, I really want to do it, but I'm like nervous. And he's like, Ray, you're an accountant. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to try it. If it doesn't work out, you're going to get another job.
Mm-hmm.
Like worst case scenario, it might not be a job you love, but you
Mm-hmm.
could do it for a little bit, pay the bills, find something else. And he's like, you're going to have so much more regret if you don't just jump into it and give it a go. So that was really what I needed. So I left that lunch and I still started driving, and I had my wife on the phone in my truck, and I was driving back to NBIF. I went into the parking lot and I talked to her for another like 20, 30 minutes. And she's like, do it if you want to. And I walked right in and I said, all right, I need to have a meeting with my boss. And I was like, look, I got to leave. I got to do this. And he always used to joke with me, my boss in NBIF, that I was coin operated. You put money in, I work. Like very motivated by money. And he looked at me and he was like, look, he's like, is it money? Like, could we like pay you more to stay? And I said, you know what? For the first time in my career, it isn't. I got to go do this. Like, I think it could be big. I think it could help out a lot of folks. The fact, like, the thing that I always had back in my mind was like how many, good companies didn't get started because they didn't understand their finances. They didn't put projections in front of an investor or a bank that made sense, and they just never got going. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I wanted to solve.
Understood. And how did you get your first index client?
How did we get our first client?
Yeah.
Well, we started Profitual with the goal to work with startups to start. So we want to, our whole overall goal is hopefully we get to work with all sorts of SMEs because we see the problem, as much as in construction as you do a massage therapy clinic. No investor reporting, but you still need to know the main drivers of your business and if you're going to run out of cash. So we started working with startups, and that was the great part about coming from 10 years at NBIF, spending 10 years meeting other venture capitalists, working with startups, investing in a lot of them, not investing in a lot of them. But as we started building this out, had people to call right away and say, hey, would you take a chance on us? Mm-hmm. And the wonderful thing about working with startup companies is they're so willing to give feedback and stick with you.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, hey, I did this. I don't think this worked the way I was supposed to. Can you look at it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that didn't work the way it was supposed to. All right, guys, let's go fix this. Let's go do that. And I don't think your average SME would be willing to do that. Provide, we had people on New Year's Eve providing product feedback. Hey, I'd really like it if it could do this. Okay, your lawyer is going to do that. So they were a great customer base for us, especially like great customer base now. It was fantastic in the early days, just willing to take a chance and understand that this is an evolution and kind of build with us.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, oh, no, it doesn't work, I'm going to cancel. We did very unscalable things of calling up founders and asked them to take a shot with us.
Amazing. So walk me through kind of the growth curve. You started a company 3 years ago. And so how many clients did you get in month one or year one or month 1, month 6, month 12? Kind of like what's been the growth trajectory of the business? Because I believe now you're at 600 plus customers.
Yeah, we started off slow. I still have the first invoice we ever sent to a client printed off behind my desk. So we started, well, we raised our angel round with no clients and a pitch deck and a dream. We were able to raise $145,000 from angels. That still remains my most favorite fundraising round we ever did.
Was it the 3Fs or was it pure angels?
Both. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we, it's funny. So that's a funny kind of tangent, but, looking to raise a little bit of money. I was still at NBIF. I hadn't quit yet. And it was like, all right, like we need to get going. And I ended up calling up an investor who I knew and said, look, I still work at NBIF. I can't in good conscience go and talk to a bunch of angel investors or investors because I'm not in it full time and I'm still at NBIF. I was like, I'm putting money into the company. We have some family putting money into the company. Do you know anybody? Here's the pitch deck. Here's the idea. He said, give me 48 hours. So then on a Sunday, I drove about an hour away, hour and a bit, to a town called Woodstock. And I met with the investor. And we met at it was a restaurant called Murray's inside an Irving Oil gas station.
Yeah.
And went there, sat down for breakfast. And he slid across about $100,000 worth of checks.
Nice.
From angel 5 different
48
angel
hours
investors.
later. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
48 hours later, one I still haven't met in person yet. Him and I could walk by on the sidewalk and wouldn't know each other.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my most favorite round, but it's when we had no customers.
That's awesome.
It was good. It was exciting. And again, that just gave more juice to kind of like, I need to do this full time. I need to leave my job and jump in. But yeah, we started with one customer. We did consulting to start.
Okay.
So kind of it had dual purpose for us. One, cash is nice, helps keep burn rate low, pay the bills. The second piece was it really helped us with product development. So kind of have that old adage, no plan first contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
And the enemy for us is real data. Like you can theorize about this all you want, but everyone does accounting a little differently.
Mhm.
Everyone has their income statement that looks a little different. Some people have inventory, some don't. So there's all of these things that go into it. So the more customers we could work with on a consulting basis and get a hold of their real data helped inform our product and our roadmap. So we would basically say, look, we will promise you the outcome you're looking for. You need a financial forecast, you will get it. Yeah. And a lot of times what we do is we build it in Excel. We would try to replicate that in our platform, find out where it broke. The client would still get the Excel. We'd work out the bugs in our platform, and then we'd show them after, be like, hey, by the way, we have this platform. Here's your financial forecast in it. Mm-hmm. How would you like access to this? Mm-hmm. This is all the additional benefits you'll get from it.
Fantastic.
So we did that for a few years. So like our growth was slower. We got up to, I think, about 35K in monthly revenue in year 2.
Okay.
A lot of it was consulting. So we made that kind of switch to let's do less consulting in year 3 and let's focus more on the platform.
Yeah.
But even last summer, like sometimes we were getting like 2 signups a month. It was really slow. And then about Q4 of last year, it was going from 2 signups to 17 to 23 to nice. January was our highest month yet. We had 48 new signups. February at like 27. I think we're at 23, 24 for this month right now. Nice. So that's starting to kind of build up our client base, and we're up over 600 users on the platform now, and getting such more feedback from them and getting those insights and having them act like pure software subscriptions as opposed to a customer that's like working with us because I have a personal relationship with them.
Yeah.
I love seeing the signups and I have no idea where they came from. That's just the happiest moment of my days.
So what was the inflection point? Like what moved you from like 2 signups a month to like 17 signups a month? Like what was the unlock? Like from our audience is scale-up founders. So kind of like, why did we start hitting the hockey stick trajectory?
Yeah, for us, it was confidence in the product.
Okay.
Like we were kind of working it through, finding the issues, fixing the issues. And when it was like, a list as long as your arm of issues, you didn't have all that much confidence, you're still building it out. Then all of a sudden you're getting like, less than a hand's worth of issues. Now, okay, you're starting to feel good. Now it's more like a thumb of bugs and things that pop up.
Yeah.
So for us, it was confidence in the product and that we've been through enough iterations of it with different customers, QuickBooks and Xero and everything in between, that we felt like we had something robust. So I love doing these types of webinars or, podcasts. But when I would jump on the first couple years, I would talk about finance like theoretically. Mm-hmm. Like, this is how you have like a finance mindset, or these are some things to consider. But at the end of those, I would never say, hey, by the way, we have an awesome tool you should be using.
Mm-hmm.
Now I end every webinar with like, sign up today. We're going to make your life easier. Here's a code. Here's let's get you in here. Because I feel like if I can get you in there, you're going to like it and you're going to stick around.
Yeah.
So for us, that was in Q4 of last year, September. We started actually spending a little bit of money in marketing, where we didn't really spend money in marketing before. It was all just personal relationships and cold outreach. To all right, now we have something that we know is more scalable. We can bring on 48 new users in a month and feel confident they're going to have a good experience. So that was really it for us.
That's amazing. So confidence in the product, moving from founder-led sales to product-led sales. Content marketing sounds like it was a key component of what you did in terms of, and continuing to do. building out this pipeline by doing webinars or sessions or podcasts or whatever it might be, getting in front of the eyes and ears of founders.
Exactly. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what else? What else has been a key unlock for you?
I think for us, it's, we find the market to be oversaturated in like AI, AI, AI. And it's like promises to do everything. And like, there's tons of benefits.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal the day and age that we're in. But, when people kind of pull back the covers, it's like, well, okay, it did like really cool, but it didn't do everything.
Yeah.
So like, I was working with a client and he took a forecast that we created for him, put it through Claude Cowork, asked him to add a couple years to the forecast to see what it would look like. And then him and I went over it. And so we're going over it. And, I was like, okay, cool. Like high level, like this is what you're thinking for growth. That's kind of a nice story. Okay. And I was like, what happened to the gross margins? Like we have like 80%. Let's just drug it to 60. He's like, I don't know. He goes, Ray, where did this net revenue retention number come from? And I go, I don't know. And he's like, this wouldn't be good if an investor got a hold of this and we can't speak to it. And I'm like, yeah, probably not. He's like, all right, can you take this, put it back into, like, take the high level essence of this, build it out in Profitual for us, and then we can actually speak to all the numbers. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a reasonable way to go about things. So I think a couple of things. One, it's, we really believe in education to go along with it. We believe that a really awesome financial forecast that the owners don't understand is still useless.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't serve the purpose of knowing the main drivers of your business, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses. Like that's the point of this exercise. It's not just to have it done, because you're never really done with this. It's, a continual evolution of understanding your business and what's working and what's not. So, we really try to do education plus finance, and we don't try to be an AI easy button.
Yep.
So that's what we really kind of relay to our clients is a level of, we're going to help you understand. We are going to support. This isn't, our platform's going to read your brain and know that you're thinking of hiring somebody. And then, we're going to automatically have that in your financial forecast. Like it's just, that's not what we do. That's not what we're about. And I think that really resonates with the clients that we're working with. It's kind of like a nice bridge in between. We're making it easier. We're making it more efficient. Yeah, we have AI to pull, receipts from QuickBooks to say, yeah, you spent more on marketing, and hey, it was made up of like these ad agencies. That makes the whole thing more efficient, but it's not doing all of the work for you. And you need to be involved with this process, and you need to understand your numbers. You don't need to be a CPA.
Yeah.
But you need to understand the main drivers of your business.
So, I mean, what's really cool from what I can see and what I can hear from you is that you've really embedded some of the best practices in terms of the forward deployed engineering model. You guys are embedded within the clients. You guys are the customer success function. You are intimately familiar with the clients and the clients' problems, and you're working through those problems with them. I mean, can you ask for anything better than this in terms of understanding the customer's problems and building to their needs rather than building to what you think is their need?
Yeah, and like that, I think that's the reason why when we do educational sessions or webinars, we connect so well with the user base as well. Like, we just closed, an additional $500,000 in financing 3 weeks ago.
Nice.
And then it's like, all right. And they're like, well, how'd you do it? Who'd you talk to? What'd you do first? Like, was it angel investors? Was it institutional? Was it fun? No, it was the most soul-sucking experience of my life. And they're like, yeah, this does suck. And I'm like, yeah, it does. And so you can really emphasize with your client base because you're living it alongside what they're doing as well. So I find that really great. And again, everything from like we're going after non-dilutive funding, they're going after non-dilutive funding. Like there's a lot of things that we're doing very similar. A lot of times our customer support calls, we talk about a lot of things that are finance adjacent.
Yeah.
But it's not like, hey, Ray, I don't know how to use a platform. They're like, no, I've built out 3 forecasts. I'm fine. Can you tell me about what due diligence was like when you're going through an investment round? What metrics are they looking for? Product-led growth. What are you trying to get for signups? So I end up having a lot of those conversations, which I think are like finance adjacent, not core to our platform.
For sure.
Again, hopefully provides, whether it's education, support, advice to our client base as well.
Understood. I mean, sounds like you're maniacally obsessed with your clients and their success, and hence what I'm assuming then that your churn rate is really low. The retention is really high based on kind of what you're describing.
Well, it's interesting. Like I kind of sang the praises of having startups as early customers because all of the
Oh,
benefits. One of the downsides, and again, I live this as well, is you don't have a lot of money.
yep,
So, as far as customer satisfaction in like working through the
yeah,
platform, very high.
yeah,
A lot of startups, just by the nature of them, we've been around for 3 years. We've been very privileged to be around for 3 years. A lot of startups don't make it that long.
yep,
So that's kind of been one of the things with our user base. It is a continual,
yep.
signups and churn that go along with it.
But from your pricing page, I mean, the plans are really affordable. But
Yeah, we're at like 50. We started like 50 up to $80 a month.
yep,
But we get a lot of benefit, or our clients get a lot more recurring benefit from us when they have actual accounting. So like
yes,
they have employees, they have revenue, they have a QuickBooks account. Things
yep,
are changing.
hmm,
There's that real early stage where you're thinking about a business and you might get it off the ground. You're looking at your forecast, you're adjusting a little, but until you make that leap, there could be months in between where you don't tweak anything.
yeah,
No, I find like if it's really early stage customers, sometimes they go in, they use it for a bit, and then it might sit stagnant. But once you start having actual accounting data, that's where we can provide real good value. I'd say even on a weekly basis, with the reports that we generate. We try to be really proactive with our platform. Like, hey, like let's not wait for month end to happen. If we notice a new bill came in or the bank balance dropped, let's alert the founders right away.
hmm,
So we find our users get a lot more benefit once they've raised a little bit of money or have a board of directors. Now they're getting the full benefits of
hmm,
us.
hmm. What are the next set of milestones that you're pursuing for Profitual?
Yeah, I mean, from a revenue perspective, we want to get to 1 million in ARR. So we're a little over 300 right now. We want to get up to that $1 million mark. I think at that $1 million mark, the world's kind of our oyster on what we do at that point. Do we go raise more money? We'd probably be profitable, so like we don't have to. Like,
Hmm,
what is our goal at that point? But I also think at that dollar amount, we could be interesting. Probably with a couple thousand users, we could be interesting as a potential target
yeah,
to a larger accounting platform. So yeah, 1 million ARR is the number one goal for us over the next couple of years. Growing that customer base, making sure the customers are as satisfied in 2 years as they are now. And then yeah, we're really gonna phase two will be we're gonna take our blinders off and say, hey, what's available to us at that point?
yeah.
And then make another strategic business decision at that point.
Understood. You just mentioned that you raised another $500,000. What were your reflections on it? What worked? What didn't work? How do you approach it differently? What advice do you have for other founders that they're on the fundraising trail?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like that's just go in. Like, I talk a lot about market dynamics, and sometimes the market dynamics are in your favor, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
The market dynamics on fundraising has always been that it's hard. So like going into it and hoping that you have one or two meetings and everything's just you're going to get a check and everything's going to be great, is naive. And if you go in with that mindset, you're going to be disappointed and
Mhm.
you're going to be frustrated and upset. So understand it's hard. It usually is taking me about 6 months from start to finish to close any financing round we've ever done. And it's a lot of follow up, it's a lot of conversations,
Mhm.
it's a process you put in place. It's tough. But I mean, we're in Canada. So one of the things I kind of suggest to all the founders we work with, and like you mentioned, I'm like obsessed with their success almost as much as our own, is that like build a snowball,
Mhm.
like just get things going. Like everyone comes to investors with a pitch deck and a dream. How do you have something more? You know, revenue is fantastic. It's great. But if you can't get revenue, can you get letters of intent? You know, I was an investor in maybe like 2% of all companies that would come to us. from the start would have revenue or letters of intent. So
Mhm.
having that puts you in the top 2% of all companies.
Really?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. So it's like, everyone says they're great. Everyone says their idea is not unique. How do you show you went a little bit further? You've
Yeah.
talked to a customer, you got them to sign something. How do you go talk to the non-dilutive funding agencies?
Mhm.
So you're talking to investors, you're talking to non-dilutive funding agencies, you're talking to customers, and it's trying to get someone to say they believe in you in
Mhm.
one way or other. However it is they do it. It could be cutting a check as an investor, it could be signing a letter of intent, or it could be paying you.
Mhm.
But get someone to validate you. I kind of joke it's a gutless industry. Like when I was an investor, you're always kind of waiting for someone else to validate the idea. You don't want to look like a fool.
Yeah.
But okay, if this non-dilutive funding provider like IRAP, they're willing to fund you, maybe this product is a little novel and unique.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or if you're able to get an angel investor check, maybe IRAP says, well, okay, if this business professional thinks that this is a good idea and we can help fund it, maybe that's a reason for them to jump in.
Yes.
So I have no good advice on where to start first. My suggestion is to start everywhere and just see who will say yes. Maybe it's a non-dilutive funding provider, maybe it's the angel, maybe it's the VC, maybe it's your customer. But get someone to sign something or provide a piece of paper, and now you're starting to build that snowball.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
once you get one, you start getting the others, and the thing starts growing. Um, I, it wasn't our last round of financing, but the one before that, we raised $1 million. I went to market looking for 1.5 million and couldn't get anything.
Okay.
So around and around and around we went. We had really good revenue traction, couldn't get it done. We ended up saying, okay, look, we can run pretty lean.
Mhm.
We don't have to cut all of our consulting revenue, which was our plan. What would that look like to have this like intermediary plan? So we went back to market for $500,000 investment raise. Well, we were able to start getting some commitments at that lower end.
Mhm.
Some people don't want to put in a $25,000 check on a $1.5 million round, but they're willing to do it on something that's more obtainable, like
Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah.
We got a $200,000 investment from someone. Well, that's 40% of this new little round that we're
Yeah.
doing. And we started building and building and building. We oversubscribed that up to $1 million. So we ended up right in between kind of our two
We want
goalposts
to be. Yeah.
for us. So my other advice is always like start small.
Yeah.
Like price it correctly that you can take on a bit more money.
Yeah.
But you can start smaller, you can start showing a lot more traction with
Mhm.
smaller checks. And at least in my experience, going after a smaller check, whether it be from an angel or a really early pre-seed fund, is a lot easier than when you start moving up the chain and start getting roped into the due diligence of those larger investment firms. So all about building that snowball. Just get some traction. Show you're doing something more than just a pitch deck and a dream.
Yeah. How do you keep the cap table feeling clear of any kind of encumbrances? What terms people like founders should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting coming from my background as a venture capitalist. I find I'm less dilution sensitive than a lot of my, founder peers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe in trying to maximize my time to money. And by
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, if I can get the money into Profitual quicker to get back to building, to get back to growing, I value that more than an extra $500,000 or $1 million in valuation. So for me, there's hundreds of reasons why someone may not invest in your startup. Don't make valuation one of them.
Yeah.
You can control valuation. And so for me, it was always, all right, how do I value this that it's a non-conversation piece?
Okay.
If I'm raising $1 million, I put the valuation at 4 million.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever questions the 20% dilution.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can do that and make sure that's not an issue, I can build that snowball quicker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was all about pricing it right. For me, it was all about how to get the money in quicker. And I know safes are really popular, especially in the States when you're starting out.
Yes.
I find at least a lot of the angel investors I deal with, if you're not in the startup world, and most of my angel investors are not, that's just a confusing document that they're not getting. I know it's supposed to be as simple, it's right in the name, but wait a minute, how much do I own?
Yeah.
And you can't answer that. And then they're like, I don't know. So for me, it was always priced rounds.
Yeah.
They know what they own. I know what I own. I would actually value the company less if I could keep it with common stock.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? If my valuation is 4 million with prefs, I would do it at 3.5 million in common.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just something beautiful about not having a bunch of liquidation preferences stack up, a bunch of additional rights for other investors just because they came in later. I really drug ours out to raise on common stock as long as absolutely possible. I just
Nice.
found it simple. So for me, it was, people look at just the valuation as if it's like a point of pride. I don't feel that. I actually feel the way that we price Profitual leaves more options on the table.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to sell for $1 billion to make our investors an amazing
Returns. Yeah.
we could sell for 25 million and it would be an amazing return for our investors. So I think that optionality is key, at least for me, for a business owner, because you never know where things are going to go. You never know where the market's going to go. So I like to leave as many options on the table as possible.
What is your take on warrants?
I found them useless.
Okay.
I love them in theory. I asked for them when I was an investor. I thought I was starting to get a little cute. I was reading a little bit too much of Brad Feld's book there on Be Smarter Than Your Venture Capitalist. So I got a little cute with it. In practice, I never found that any of the startups I had the warrants in, it was so obvious that their valuation had grown that it made sense to exercise the warrants.
Yeah.
What I found is most of the founders, when I had the warrants, they assumed that we were just going to exercise them as investors.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually set the opposite expectation with them, where the founders, were like, I'll put 100 grand in, I'll take 100 grand worth of warrants. They'd close the first 100 grand and they're like, well, when do I get my second 100 grand? Like, well, no, like that's not the point. Is ideally you go raise more money at a higher valuation and then I get the deal.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, like, no, I don't really like that. So again, like just thinking of the individuals that you're dealing with, like I thought it was really cool from a finance perspective and from an investor perspective. If the people you're interacting with don't fully understand them or the purpose or the goals of them, I haven't found them very valuable. So maybe once you start getting up in that series, post Series A, Series B stage, it makes a lot more sense. I find at that early stage, the only one that wins is the lawyers because they got a few extra bucks by making these warrants.
Yeah. Makes sense. I know we're coming close to time. Any kind of final words of wisdom? What can people do to learn more about the product? Where do they follow you? Just give us your CTA.
Yeah. So pretty active on LinkedIn. Pretty active on educational webinars that I end up hosting at least one a month, sometimes two. Got one. I already did one this month. I got another one coming up today. So try to be quite active on that. Always up for a chat. If you're interested in Profitual, if you're a founder building out, a new product, or if you're a company operating now and have investors or boards to report to, you can even try us for free for 30 days. So
Amazing.
No credit card required. Jump on, sign in. Any questions, like let me know. Like we're still nice and small enough now that we're able to personally field those and provide a pretty good white glove experience. If anyone has any interest, by all means, check us out both on our website, profitual.ai, and then give me an ad on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you, Ray. That was fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Maxim.